Why do black nurses have such a hard time working in palm-color-dominated healthcare environments? Sometimes patients refuse to be attended to them, and pressure is also given to them by their palm-color counterparts. You see, palm-color folks feel that black people are not doing enough. Professionally speaking, they feel that they are not more civilized than them, so they expect them to dress a type of way, to keep their hair straight, perhaps even to look lighter, while working in these professional environments. Because let's face it, everything that we use in our daily lives, all the systems that we depend on, were pretty much created by palm colors. So is it right for them to continue dictating how we look, appear, and how we work in professional environments? You tell me. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And tell me why you think a lot of black nurses have such a hard time working in healthcare environments. Is it just racial discrimination, or is there something more attached to it? Because I think it begins with racial discrimination, but it ends with something else.
If you want to be a nurse and you're black, I need you to watch this. First of all, I've been a nurse for 10 years and I can say all the things that I want to say because I don't work for anyone else but myself and my friends, but let's get into that later. When you work in certain specialties that traditionally black nurses have not been able to get into, there will be a moving target on your back. If you have a social media, they will find it. If you make a joke online that has nothing to do with work, they will say that it's about work and about them. They will lie and they will backstab. There are a few things that I want you to know to help you get through this. Number one, you are not crazy. It is happening to you. But I want you to find someone that you trust, and oftentimes that person is not going to be someone that you work with. Second, when you are being targeted or attacked, document everything. Write it down. You will need it. Third thing, you are not a tree. You are not planted anywhere. You can always get up and leave. Lastly, it's not on you, it's in you, and it does get better.
I actually have a very interesting story about racism in nursing that I think could blow your mind. So obviously, I'm black, and we all know that there are not a lot of black nurses, for one, let alone black ICU nurses. I'm typically the only one on night shift, usually. Here in California, it's better, because I used to be in Wisconsin, but that's just how it is. And sure, you have your race patients that are very confused and delirious and that will yell out slurs, whatever. I'm not talking about that. Okay, so this was back in Wisconsin, and I was working with a nurse. She was very nice, very helpful, very smart, very kind. And this nice nurse was giving a bed bath with our tech, and the tech was black as well. And this nurse, she asked the tech, she's like, hey, I didn't grow up around black people, so I never really got a chance to ask this question. But do black people wash their hands, or do they just grease them up? When I hear this, first thing I do is laugh, because that is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. And then I got pissed, because that means you think that me, a black ICU nurse, does not wash your hands, which is putting my patients at an infection risk. Now you're insulting me personally. That was talked to with management, they handled it, whatever. Fast forward a week later, I'm taking care of a patient. She has DKA, little black lady, and we're in morning huddle getting the rundown on all of the patients with all the nurses in the morning. And she goes, man, I hate taking care of DKA patients. They're always little black ladies who steal stuff. So then I go up to my manager. I'm like, look, this is the second time I heard her say some racist. You guys have got to do something. This is unacceptable. Management handled it. But shout out to the tech, because she called HR anonymously and was like, hey, this is what this nurse has been saying. The management team is aware, but I think this needs to be escalated. And she was fired less than a week later. But here's the bigger problem. She was fired. She's in NP school. And then she went to work at a different hospital in the area, maybe 15 minutes away. And the hospital that she's working at now, or was working at, it's a lower income hospital. If you know, you know. But the fact that she is now taking care of a majority of black and brown people is scary. And she actually got that job as a travel assignment, making double what she was making. And that just goes to show you, if you're raised in America, you can get away with anything. Nobody gives a fuck.
Hey guys. So, on today's episode of Black Nursing in Nebraska, Let me tell you what happens. I walk into work. Good morning, they say. Nothing. Again, I say, good morning. Oh, good morning. Great. Off to a great start. How are you guys? Good. Well, I'm great. One of our providers walks in. She says, oh, good morning, Elle. Good morning to you. How are you? I'm well. How are you? Well, I noticed you didn't comb your hair today. I said, actually, my hair is combed. Well, I'm used to you wearing, your hair the other way. What way do you mean? Well, the way where it's straight. When it's straight. I said, oh, when I wear wigs. Well, yeah. I'm just used to you doing that. I don't always wear wigs. Or you have those twisties in your hair. Braids? Yeah, I like that too. I like when you have your long hair. Huh. Well, I want you to know when I get up and do my hair every day, I do it just for you. Oh, Elle, cut it out. You know what I mean. I don't know what you mean. But I do want to let you know that this hair, like this right here, this grows out of my scalp. So this is my hair, which is why I wore it today. Well, it just looks so messy. I'm not frozen. I just can't. I just can't with the microaggression today. I said, do you know what the Crown Act is? Well, no, I've never heard of that. What it is a law that says this conversation we're having is illegal and discriminatory. Oh, Elle, you're so sensitive about those things. Then she says, well, I have black patients today, so they should really enjoy your hair. I can't today.
So what do I mean when I say it begins with racial discrimination but ends with something else? So let's first take a look at the indigenous people that were colonized by people like Christopher Columbus, the imperialists, and all the like. So they went to Africa, to the Americas, they went to indigenous lands. Then they saw the people with a darker skin. They got amazed, they got surprised. These humans look different from us. These humans are unlike us. They should be lesser than us because they have a darker dominated color than us. And since dark in society is considered bad, because they looked at black as a phenomenon of horror. They used to call Africa the dark continent because it suggested there were sinister animals living there, not humans, So dark represented something evil for them, something lesser. While they looked at white as something significant and important, pure in fact. But spiritually talking, dark is the ether. This is the realm of creation. Blackness is the beginning of everything. In the beginning, there was darkness, complete chaos, and God got light from it, right? So darkness is where everything emerged from, but they didn't have this concept of understanding, but the indigenous people did, and that is the reason why the indigenous people showed kindness, because what you see in front of us is darkness, but inside is purity. While the colonizers, the imperialists, they were pure in color, but inside they represented absolute chaos. So they started colonizing them based on the notion that they thought and felt that whiteness was more important than the color that they saw in front of them. So it all began with racial discrimination. It ended with something else. It ended with civilization, and it ended with dictatorship, because they wanted to reconstruct everything that they saw in the societies of the indigenous people. So it began with racial discrimination, but it ended in civilization, or what the palm color man calls civilization, which is absolute whiteness, straight hair, and everything that you find in the healthcare system. Let's make it a little bit more scientific. Let me give you a scientific example by saying, if I'm a scientist or an inventor and I invented a software that recognizes faces, so a facial recognition software, but since I used white faces only to recognize faces, right? If this software has only been fed with white faces, that means it can't recognize a person from other races. It only knows perhaps even Asians can be detected, and maybe people that have a lighter skin can be detected using this software. What will happen when I bring a black face in front of that software is the software is gonna say unknown or doesn't match, right? Because that face is not recognized to that software system. That face is pretty much a foreigner. It's an alien, an unknown entity. So the software itself is not wrong. The software has been fed with information that is completely opposite from what it's seeing in front of it. So it's not going to recognize that face. But it's not that the software is inaccurate. No, it's just unaware of it. And what do I mean by this? Take, for example, the education system. The education system provides information that it was fed, which is the history of the palm color man. History that palm colors view as important to them, such as European history, is the history that a majority of African people know more than their own histories. It's because the system was fed that information, right? When you go to the healthcare sector, the system was fed information of a nurse appearing a type of way. A nurse should have straight hair. A nurse should look a complete certain way. It's a narrative that was created by palm color people. So when you introduce something that is not similar to what the system was taught, the system is not going to detect it. The system is going to view it as a threat or as an enemy. And that's exactly what happens in the healthcare system. So it begins with racial discrimination and ends with palm color civilization. Because you and I view it as the palm colored being racially biased, but in the palm color eyes, he views us as being uncivilized and unmatching to his ways which are pure and holy. So he comes to us and we look at it as racial discrimination, but in his eyes, he's approaching it in a civilized manner. He's asking why you're not behaving civilized by keeping your hair straight. You and I know that black people themselves have this sort of racially, not really biased, but just a little bit biased, ethnically speaking, conversations that we have among ourselves, right? But when we have such conversations among ourselves, we do not see ourselves as enemies because we know that we are one and the same. You know, so if I criticize my friend based on their skin pigmentation to say it's more darker than mine, I'm actually just joking about it and I'm not serious, right? But if a palm color person comes, they are gonna base the conversation on the basis of race and color, but you'll be offended by that because they are different from yours. So when I do it with my brother, we're just joking around. But when a palm color person does it, they do it from a basis of entitlement because they view themselves as being civilized. So they want to educate you and I by asserting their palm color dominance. So we are looking at a system that was created by palm color people. So I think when we introduce our black nurses and our black doctors in the systems, it doesn't favor them because they represent something different or foreign from what the system was taught. So if there is need for fairness and justice in such systems, they have to be deconstructed and reconstructed. They need to be re-innovated, revisited. And that is why people such as Dr. Omar and other thought leaders in the black community always say that black people need their own things. Black banks, black supermarkets, black schools, and black hospitals. In fact, when this happens, who knows? Maybe even Africa can be liberated because we would be seeking our help from blacks, our fellow black people that would help us instead of looking at imperialists for help. But you tell me what you think about this notion. Do you think it's a basis of racial discrimination that a lot of black sisters of ours and other black people in the healthcare system have this problem? But mind you, it's not just the healthcare system, it's also the education system. We recently did a video about this where a sister was talking about how she was having problems at work in her school because they thought that she was sleeping when she wasn't. You know, these palm color people are always trying to find a fault in her, even if she's doing things right, because it's the system. The system wouldn't favor such a person, right? So they want to bring her in to show inclusivity and to show equality, but what comes out of it is something else. But all in all, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and I would like to hear your perspectives concerning the discussion that we just had today. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.